There you go. If you want to, I couldn't edit that with people in there. So if you want to go back in, you should be able to now.
And Victoria, will you'll close it out? Is that okay? And I might stay on if I can, but don't count on me to close it out just in case the drama takes me down.
Yeah. That's cool. If you are on here, do you want to end it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I'd like to hear everyone.
This is so useful. I'm really glad we're doing this.
Me too. And you all do amazing work, so thank you. And I'm an artist who wanted to be a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer who wished she had artistic talent.
I wish I was an artist or a lawyer.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jane Golden, and I'm with the Mural Arts Program. And I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It's really, really inspiring to see that so many people signed up. So the cultural sector is wonderful. So before, I just have a few words of welcome, but first, I always like to start with gratitude. So I want to thank the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, Philadelphia Legal Assistance, and the Philadelphia Unemployment Project for doing awesome, wonderful work year-round, all the time, and for contributing to tonight's event. I also want to thank the incredible community murals team of the Mural Arts Program, yay, for coming up with this idea. So, you know, at Mural Arts, we like love artists, we really do. And we employ about 200, 250 artists every year and have for like a zillion years. And it's important that we do that and that we keep doing it. And unfortunately, this year has been a horrible year for so many people. And the arts and culture sector is no different. Under good times, it is a fragile ecosystem. And under bad times, one feels as though they're at the precipice. And yet, the sector has continued to go on in creative ways. People contribute. There's been great collaboration, conversations. And at the end of the day, it just reminds me of the grit and resilience, the creativity, the wonder, and the magic that exists in artists throughout the city of Philadelphia. And so we thank you for all you do. And please know that in Mural Arts, since COVID happened, we've just been asking ourselves, how do we do more? So we did the Space Pad project, maybe some of you contributed. So 5,200 space pads, hundreds of artists employed, creating public health messages. We've done mini murals, big murals. All summer long, we were out working. You know, we're still working, and it's December. We started a fellowship program for Black artists that will continue every year. That's our commitment. And you know what? We should never stand still, because if you're standing still, you're going backwards, and we owe it to the sector to do everything we can. So please know that. So tonight's event is part of what we feel is a moral imperative to keep contributing to the ecosystem of the artists in our area. I'm really thankful that Community Murals had this idea. They came up with a suggestion, and like I'm like a yes person, and so I couldn't say yes fast enough. So I really thank you for joining. Thank them for the idea, and our partners who are here tonight. Thank you. And I want to say, like, this shouldn't be like the end of our conversation with you. Please stay involved. If you have ideas, we love ideas. You know, and I think that please know that anything we can do to be value, support, assistance, we want to be here for you, because we understand the incredible value that the arts play to the life of our city. That is a non-negotiable for sure. And I want to just end by reading a quote from Rebecca Solnit. She says, "It is too soon to know what will emerge from this emergency that we have been experiencing, but not too soon to start looking for chances to help decide it." That's right. And that's what we're going to do. And we'll do it together, collaboratively, and we're going to shine a light on arts and culture in our city. So now it is my great pleasure to introduce our co-host of this event, Stuart Adair, the Chief Officer for Finance and Administration of the wonderful Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance. Stuart.
On a screen. Just that's fine. Victoria. Hello, all. I'm clearly not Stuart. Stuart was having a little bit of technical difficulties, so we're just going to jump right into tonight's program. Good evening. My name is Victoria Boyer. I am the Program and Event Manager for Mural Arts Philadelphia, and tonight I have the pleasure of being your moderator for the evening. Tonight we'll be hearing presentations by Julia Simon Michelle, Supervisory Attorney of the Unemployment Compensation Unit for Philadelphia Legal Assistance, and Andrew Lee, Organizer for the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. Throughout the evening, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send those to us through the Q&A box. After both presenters are finished, they will be answering any questions that you may have. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Julia, Simon, Michelle.
Great. Thank you so much, Victoria. I'm happy to be here. I know these are stressful times and that unemployment benefits are one of the few ways that people can access income during this pandemic when so many people have lost work. As Victoria said, I'm the supervising attorney for the Unemployment Compensation Unit at Philadelphia Legal Assistance. Philadelphia Legal Assistance is one of the legal service providers in Philadelphia that provides free legal aid to individuals who are low income and their families in Philadelphia. I'm going to be talking about different ways to access unemployment benefits, but I'm going to be focusing on a special program that was created by the federal government back in April called Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, which I believe is the program that will be most relevant to folks on this call. Just give me a second. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get the presentation started. Okay, so first and foremost, there might be some individuals on this webinar who do have W-2 income. You may have been working part-time for an employer, and if you do have W-2 income, you may be eligible for regular unemployment compensation. Sometimes people assume they're not if it was only a part-time job, but for many part-time jobs, they can qualify for unemployment insurance. So if you do qualify for regular unemployment, you could get up to 26 weeks of benefits from Pennsylvania, and also an additional 13 weeks from the federal extension called Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, or PEUC, and possibly another 13 weeks from a state extension called Extended Benefits. For regular unemployment, benefits range from $68 per week to $572 a week, and they can be paid every other week by direct deposit or debit card. Fair warning for everyone in this day and age, still pretty much all communication from the Department of Labor and Industry, which runs the unemployment program, comes by mail. So it's really important that you have access to your mail and that you are consistently checking it if you are engaging with the unemployment system. So to file for regular unemployment, there are really two ways right now. One is online and one is by telephone. Unfortunately, right now, as pretty much everyone knows, it's nearly impossible to get through on the telephone. So we highly recommend applying online. The application is mobile responsive, so if you only have a cell phone, you can use that to apply online. But my focus tonight is going to be on pandemic unemployment assistance. So in the CARES Act back in April, the federal government created the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program to provide unemployment benefits to individuals who don't normally qualify for regular state unemployment compensation. The focus on that is people who are considered independent contractors or freelancers, self-employed individuals, small business owners, different gig workers, and then importantly also people who might normally qualify for regular unemployment compensation based on the job that they had, but they didn't have enough work history or enough earnings to qualify for regular unemployment. The key to pandemic unemployment assistance, and I'll talk about this in a moment, is that you must have lost work due to COVID-19 in order to qualify for this benefit. The federal government has been really clear and has really come down hard on needing to prove that in order to get the benefit. Pandemic unemployment assistance gets you up to 39 weeks of benefits. It is, again, a similar range to regular unemployment, except it has a higher minimum. So the minimum you will get on pandemic unemployment assistance is $195. And this program includes already the 13-week federal extension. So that 39 weeks is in essence 26 plus 13 to get you to the total. As I'll also mention later, any supplemental benefits that have gone over with this program, you will also get. So the extra $600 that folks got over the summer and the extra $300 that they got earlier in the year, if you qualify for benefits for those weeks, you will also get that money. The key here is that PUA, this program, is retroactive. So if you've lost work earlier in the year, but you've not yet filed for this program, you still can, and you can still request benefits for time periods earlier in the year once the program was available. So even if you haven't done it yet, you still can, and we're going to talk about how to do that. So as you could see on the previous slide, the key is that individuals who were found financially ineligible for regular unemployment compensation, or would be because they don't have W-2 wages, are eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance, but you must have lost work due to COVID-19. In essence, what the government is looking at is, did you have some sort of connection to the labor market before COVID hit, right? That you were actively engaged in the labor market. There's a few different things that can qualify you. You could have had a job offer that was rescinded. You could have had to leave the work that you were doing because of COVID-19, or you could just have seen a decrease in work or assignments or gigs due to COVID-19. So there are many different ways that you can qualify, but you have to have been connected to the labor market. Unfortunately, just looking for work is not enough to qualify people. However, if you're self-employed, there are ways to prove that you're connected to the labor market. That doesn't necessarily mean you got paid anything prior to March, because as we all know, especially if you're in the business of producing things, you may not have sold anything during that time, but it doesn't mean that you weren't actually working. Once you're through the application, you will, just like for regular unemployment, be required to report your weekly income throughout the time that you're filing for benefits. There's been a lot of talk right now for anyone on the call. PUA technically ends on December 26th. That means that people cannot qualify for benefits and receive benefits for any week after that. So in essence, you can't file and say, I'm unemployed for this week in January and receive benefits for it. But what it doesn't mean is that you can no longer file for previous benefits. So you can still file and receive money for weeks prior to December 26th. You're not going to be cut off from being able to do that once the program deadline hits. Now, we are all waiting at the edge of our seats to see if Congress extends this program. If that happens, Philadelphia Legal Assistance will put out materials as soon as something is passed, explaining how that's going to impact people. And I'll explain how you can follow us and find that information at the end of my presentation. So when you go on to the PUA application, just wanting to point out that you will be asked a few things. The first is that you'll be asked, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, to estimate your quarterly earnings from 2019 if you are saying that you were self-employed. If you are self-employed or independent contractor, then they're looking at your net income, and they're going to want you to put that all in by quarters. And we're talking regular quarters, March, which is January through March, right? April through June, and so on, which I have learned recently is different than the IRS quarters for reporting income and paying taxes. So again, it's the regular 4 quarters of the year. Importantly, you're going to have to identify why you are unemployed due to COVID-19. Like I said, for the vast majority of artists, I'm guessing that you're going to fall under, you'll see reduction in work as a freelancer, right? That is the qualifying reason under the CARES Act for the vast majority of people. But of course, if any of the others apply to you, that may be your reason for filing. So you can apply for PUA online. You will need to set up a username and password. It's really important that you write it down somewhere safe. Unfortunately, there is a reset protocol, but a lot of people have had trouble with it. So please try to remember your username and password. If you go to set up a username and password, and the system says there's already an account set up with your social security number, please contact Philadelphia Legal Assistance. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of fraud in this program, and some people are discovering that a fraudulent account was set up in their name. So if that happens to you, please contact us and we can help you navigate that and fix it. Importantly, Because this system is new and people have been a little nervous about trying to apply for it, people have been taken advantage of by others offering to file for them if you pay them. Please don't pay anyone else to file for you. You can get free help and advice from the Philadelphia Unemployment Project, from Community Legal Services, and from us at Philadelphia Legal Assistance. Also, do not give your social security number or personal information to a family member, friend, or acquaintance to have them file for you. As much as I want us to be able to trust everyone in our lives, we've had a lot of people who have done that, only to have that person take the money for themselves and lock you out of the account. If that happens, the government can't do anything to protect you because you voluntarily gave your information to someone else. So we're really trying to warn people that that is not the way to go. If you're nervous or can't do this on your own, please come to one of the free organizations that can help you right now. So quickly, who cannot get PUA? Unfortunately, undocumented individuals are not eligible for unemployment programs. If you have documentation and are eligible to work in the United States, you have work authorization, you are eligible for benefits. You will be asked to provide documentation of your work authorization. If you've been given the ability to telework or were offered remote work and refused that, then unfortunately you won't be eligible for PUA. The application will ask you about that. And also, this may apply to some folks, people who are still employed full-time, especially in a W-2 job, but have lost their side business income, are not eligible. They're still considered fully employed, and unfortunately, this program does not provide benefits to individuals who are still fully employed. Similarly, you can't collect regular unemployment for a W-2 job and PUA for a side gig or a side business. If you are eligible for UC, you have to just collect UC. You in no way, shape, or form at any point can collect from both programs at the same time. That will get people in serious trouble. So please do not file for the same weeks in both programs. So the weekly benefit amount that you're eligible for on PUA is based on your 2019 income. As I showed you before, you'll be asked to provide a quarterly breakdown of that income. There'll also then be an opportunity to upload documentation proving your income in the application. So you can use things like your tax returns, especially a Schedule C if you have it. That's going to be the most helpful, because if you are self-employed or a freelancer, then you're looking to show your net income. And so if you've done that through Schedule C, that will be most helpful, but you can also, of course, show your gross income by quarter and then also show your expense information. So you may also have paychecks, you may have Venmo payments. There's lots of different ways to do it. But if you want to qualify for a higher weekly benefit rate, you'll need to provide documentation. What do I mean by that? So documentation, that proof of income, is only used for the purposes of establishing a weekly benefit amount. While you can upload documentation during the initial application, you can also do it at any time after you submit that application in your portal, which you'll get access to after you file. So for instance, the application only has room for a certain number of documents. So if you have more than that, you'll need to add more in the portal. Or if you just don't have everything with you when you're filing the application, you can, again, do it afterwards in the portal. It's really easy to find your document center and to upload a document. Again, the only reason you would need to upload documents is if you want to qualify for more than $195 a week, which is the minimum of the program. Again, you do not need to provide documentation to be eligible. So how much am I eligible for? As I said, the base for every single person is $195 per week, even if you don't have any proof of income. Although while you don't need to provide proof of income, they may at some point ask you for, again, some sort of proof of your connection to the labor market. So it's always helpful just to get documentation up there if you have it, because it can help you down the line. If you are given a rate higher than $195, and what I mean by that is, as soon as you file, you'll get access to the portal, and there will be a message in there with your monetary determination that will tell you how much you're eligible for per week. If they found you eligible for more than $195, based on the quarterly income you reported, you then need to provide documentation to support that rate by uploading it in the portal and providing any explanation. If you're given $195 but believe you should qualify for more, you can request a redetermination of that rate and provide documentation to support it. I'll provide the organizers of this call with a guide we created for how to do that. And finally, if you're applying now and you're going to need benefits for earlier in the summer, if you're eligible for benefits between April 4th and July 25th, you'll also receive the extra $600 a week that was available during that time. And if you're eligible for the weeks ending August 1st through September 5th, then you'll also receive the extra $300 that was available to people during that time. Again, no one should be financially ineligible for PUA. You do not have to have made a certain amount of money during 2019 to qualify. Even if you made $1 or you had a negative net income in 2019, you should still qualify for PUA. So what happens now if you're filing today and you lost your work back in, let's say, May? They're going to set your application date when you file to today, but you can request backdating to ask to file for weeks going back to when you first lost your job. The way you can do that is by emailing ucpua@pa.gov and following the instructions on this slide. In essence, it's just explaining to them when you lost your work and how your loss of work was related to COVID-19. And then they'll process that. They are backlogged in processing this. We have a lot of people waiting, but you will not lose your right to those dates. Again, just because the program is ending doesn't mean that they will not get to this. You will eventually get this money, but it is taking time. But it's important to get that request in because all of the supplemental benefit bumps are very helpful that happen during the summer. So for anyone who has been on regular unemployment before, some key differences. In regular unemployment, people file biweekly. In PUA, you can file weekly for benefits. You may have heard a lot at the beginning of this crisis about people struggling because they didn't have access to a PIN number to file for their benefits. PUA does not have a PIN number. Again, you'll always use the username and password to log in online on the portal to do any number of things, including filing for benefits. If you've never participated in unemployment programs before, in order to get paid, you have to file your claims. So for PUA, you will go in and file weekly claims where you certify again that you're still unemployed or underemployed, you report any income, you explain what's going on, and then you get paid for that week. So after you file the initial application, you'll have to start filing those weekly claims. It's really important to report income. If you're a W-2 worker and you're earning any income, you have to report the gross income from that job. If you're self-employed or a freelancer, you should be estimating and reporting your net income for the week. Again, you report income in the week that you earn it, not necessarily that it's paid. So if you're getting paid now for work that you did back in 2019, you don't have to report that. But if you're doing work this week and you're not going to get paid for another 2 weeks, you need to report that this week. It's when you earned the money. That's the key for unemployment or for PUA. Now, one important thing for being paid. In regular unemployment, claimants can get paid either through direct deposit or by a debit card. Right now in PUA, it's only by debit card. So even if the system lets you sign up for direct deposit, you'll only get paid by debit card. So you have to wait until that debit card from US Bank, it's called a Relia card, comes in the mail to you. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because we're going to send this around. But again, it's really important to report earnings, especially if it's W-2 earnings, because those will eventually get reported by the employer. You can earn money and still collect unemployment benefits. There's an offset depending on how much you earned. It's related to something called your partial benefit credit. Again, I'm not going to go into much detail, but we have graphics like this on our Facebook page and website, and we'll send around that can help explain how that works for everyone. So what if you have already applied for PUA, but your benefits have not been paid, which unfortunately was a ton of people during this pandemic. So first, if you see on your claim summary something called IP special investigation as an issue, that means that you need to confirm your identity. You may have already taken steps to do that. You may have uploaded documents. You may have sent them emails. However, there is a new process for confirming your identity, and in order to clear that issue and get paid, you must follow it. And that is using something called ID Me. So there should be a message in your message center for PUA that provides you with instructions for how to complete ID Me. It involves going to a separate website and uploading either a piece of documentation or answering some questions like you do to get a credit report. And if for some reason none of that works, you can speak to a live person. But you have to follow the instructions for ID Me. We have a video on our Facebook page for how to do that that I'll also send around. If you've been filing for benefits and haven't received payments and you don't have that IP special investigation issue, I recommend contacting the Philadelphia Unemployment Project, Community Legal Services, Philadelphia Legal Assistance, or your local state rep for help. I'm going to stress that you should only go to one of these entities for help, because if multiple different entities try to contact the government on your behalf, it will cause problems with your claim. So just go to one for help. Please don't contact and open cases with everyone because that will cause more trouble. But all of these organizations can help you figure out what's going on with your benefits and try to make sure that your payments get released if you're eligible. So finally, as I mentioned earlier, the bad news right now is that this benefit does end on December 26th. So unfortunately, there is no additional extension that people can apply for. There's been some misinformation going around that somebody on PUA can apply for PEUC, which is the 13-week federal extension. That's not true. That's already included in the 39 weeks. Unfortunately, also the government sent around a very confusing notice to some people saying that they're going to exhaust their benefits and they can file again after December 26th, but that's not true. Again, the program unfortunately ends on December 26th. But again, you do not lose your rights to benefits after that if you have filed for and are waiting for benefits for weeks prior to December 26th. If you are a W-2 worker and you filed for unemployment earlier in the summer and you were found not eligible for regular unemployment and then you got onto PUA, it may be worth filing again for regular unemployment once PUA ends because they look at different time periods now of your wage history than they did earlier in the year. And so you could be eligible now for regular unemployment. So it's worth trying that both in December, and if you're denied in December, again in January, because there will be another shift in what time period they are looking at. Again, we are hoping that there is some movement in Congress to extend the program, and we'll provide information about that as soon as we have it. So with that, as I mentioned, you can come to our organization for assistance if you're in Philadelphia and you need help with unemployment issues. You can also visit our website for more information, and I highly recommend following us on Facebook. We are constantly putting out graphics and information updates, and I also tend to do Facebook Live events where I give updates about what's going on and do some Q&A. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over, I believe, to Andrew.
All right, thank you. So my name's Andrew. I'm an organizer at the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. Despite what our name might suggest, we are not, in fact, the unemployment office. We are a small nonprofit, and what we do is we support and we advocate for folks who are on unemployment and for folks who are having problems with their unemployment benefits. As Julia touched on, there are times where people have issues after they apply for PUA or regular UC, and they need to get in touch with the unemployment office. And this is something that can be very challenging for folks. The phone lines are really underfunded for unemployment. It can be really hard to talk to a live person on the other end. And that's why we're encouraging people to use us as a resource. Our website is philaup.org. We're going to put some links in the chat. You can go to our website. If you scroll down, there's a section that says, "Are your unemployment payments delayed?" If you're on a mobile browser, you have to scroll a little bit. If you fill out that form with your information, if you're having issues with your PUA or unemployment, if you haven't gotten a response, if you think you're being underpaid, if you think that there was some error that needs to be corrected, you can fill out that form. We have a back channel to the State Department of Labor, and we can send your information to them once a week, every week, until it's resolved. So that's the first thing that we can offer folks is if you're having issues with your PUA or your unemployment claim and you need to get in touch with the state about an error that they may have made, please use us as a resource so that you can actually communicate what that problem was to the folks running unemployment. So that's the first big thing. The second thing from our perspective at the Philadelphia Unemployment Project is we have helped a lot of people with these issues, and we've come to see that these are not just people's individual issues, right? The problems with unemployment aren't that each and every person is making mistakes. There are structural problems with unemployment. I mean, a big one, of course, is that this program is ending at the end of this month. After the Great Recession in 2008, people had 99 weeks of unemployment benefits. And that's, we're getting just around half of that with all of the extensions right now. So we're in the situation now, we're here in Philadelphia at the end of this month, at the end of December. A lot of people are going to run out of their PUA benefits. A lot of people are going to run out of their regular unemployment compensation. And we also right now have an eviction moratorium in the city of Philadelphia, right? Which means that landlords should not be evicting their tenants, even if they aren't able to pay rent. That moratorium is also going to end at the end of this month. So there's a real possibility that come early January, a lot of people, perhaps ourselves, our neighbors, our communities, our families, are going to be, waking up in the new year to seeing all of their household income cut off with the end of some of these programs for individuals, as well as being eligible to receive evictions from their landlords. And we think that that is absurd. I mean, at PUP, we are of the opinion that it is ridiculous that people who are not able to work through no fault of their own be cut off from benefits and be thrown out into the street in the cold of winter because we are receiving even less than we received during the last recession. And because of that, we're working with a group of unemployed people in an organizing committee. And this unemployed organizing committee has coming together to fight for, one, the extension of these benefits, two, public jobs and a jobs training program so folks can land on their feet coming out of this crisis, and three, support for both tenants and homeowners with mortgages, and an indefinite extension of the eviction moratorium. So on one hand, we're helping people with their individual issues. On the other hand, we're pulling together unemployed people to fight to make things better. And if anyone is interested in being part of that second effort, we would love to have you. We're going to be having a kickoff event virtually on Zoom on January 8th. Because right at the start of the new year, we want to be really loud and really clear that we deserve better than this. That people shouldn't be losing their houses. People shouldn't be evicted. People shouldn't be cut off by benefits. And we think that there are so many people being affected by these issues that we think it is common sense for folks to come together and to fight for them. So we're already talking to elected officials. We're already talking to other community organizations, and more than anything, we're talking to unemployed folks. We're out there in the streets. We're talking to folks. We're bringing people together, and we would love to have folks join us. If you want, I think that we can really make some good things happen. So that is just PUP. That's not PLA. That's not Mural Arts. But we're community organizers. We're training community organizers. We're training people to raise their voices and to speak out and to bring attention to these issues. But whether folks want to get involved in that effort or not, please use us as a resource. If you do end up applying for PUA, if you do end up applying for regular UC, if you or people have already applied and haven't received payments or having issues, please go to our website, philaup.org, Go down to that box. Are your unemployment payments delayed? Fill it out. We will be in touch with you, and we will be transmitting your information to the state. And we have talked to folks who, after we've submitted that, have been able to get some resolutions. Right? It's not a silver bullet. Ultimately, we are still waiting on the Department of Labor, just like individuals are. But it's a way to actually get that communication through. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andrew and Julia. Now we have a couple of questions that have come in, and as a reminder, we're still going to be taking questions. So if our attendees have anything, just drop it in the Q&A box. The first question is, and either of you can answer any of these. I'm concerned about the backdate request not going through. I didn't know I qualified for PUA until last month. I emailed them to backdate, but no confirmation they've received my request. And I get a screen saying, your benefits may run out on 12/26. What to do?
So if you followed the instructions that I put on the screen that the department had put out before and emailed the UCPOA account, your request is in the queue, right? It just might mean they haven't gotten to it yet. We have a lot of people who have been waiting, even since like August or September, unfortunately, for those backdate requests. But while you won't be able to collect new benefits as of December 26th, you do not lose your right to that backdate request as of then. I know it's really hard to wait for that because that can be a large chunk of money. But again, that December 26th date, the exhaustion of your benefits, that only applies going forward. That doesn't apply to the weeks that you still want to file for that were earlier in the year.
Thank you. Next question is, I've been getting regular UC. When this runs out, can I then file for PUA?
So regular UC right now has two different extensions. If you exhaust your regular unemployment benefits, they will automatically move you on to the 13-week federal extension, PEUC. Once that's over, they will automatically move you on to the state extension called extended benefits. PEUC, the federal extension, also ends on December 26th. So if you were on that extension when we get to that date, if it's not, again, expanded by anything from Congress, then the state should move you on to the state extension for 13 weeks. There are a few people who may have exhausted all of that prior to December 26th. If you had an open unemployment claim that you had already exhausted and you reopened when COVID started, if that's you and you've already exhausted all of those benefits, if you lost work due to COVID, you can apply for PUA and they may be able to give you a couple of weeks of benefits on top of that. But generally speaking, if you're on regular unemployment, you should have enough extensions in that program that you don't need to touch PUA. And generally, we'd rather people stay in one or the other to prevent some of the confusion that's happening by the government.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question is, can the documentation be a contract for a project and then the email canceling or postponing that project?
Absolutely. That's not necessarily proof of income for 2019, right? They want proof of income for 2019. But if you have something like that, I would absolutely upload it because it does show your connection to the labor market. And they have been a little picky about that in the last couple of months. So if you have things like that, I always err on the side of uploading it.
Great. What are other acceptable pieces of documentation that they will need to file for PUA?
Yeah, so again, you only need documentation of your income if you think you qualify for higher than $195 per week, which generally speaking means that you earned more than $20,000 a year in net income in 2019. So if you didn't earn more than $20,000 in net income in 2019, then you're going to get $195, the base rate, and you don't need to provide any proof of income. Although if you have a 1099 or anything, you can upload it to, again, show your connection to the labor market. So 1099s have been a favorite of people. But like I said, if you want to give them a Venmo history, a contract, any sort of agreement, a pay stub, anything that shows proof of pay, you can do that. We also have a lot of cash workers out there, though. And so if you're a cash worker, again, unless you would really have to show that you earned more than $20,000 to get higher than the 195. But if you don't have any proof of income, that's also okay, right? Again, this program is built on the idea that people are self-certifying, and that in a pandemic, people may not have access to the documentation that they need. So again, you're not required to do that. But they may ask you at some point for some sort of proof of your connection to the labor market that's separate from how much you qualify for each week.
Thank you. If your income came from selling paintings, a little bit of Airbnb, and a little bit of teaching art at an art center, should you only apply as an independent contractor?
So one thing about regular unemployment and PUA is that it's about all of your work, right? So you're not applying for one particular job or as one particular thing. They're looking at everything. So if that's you, then you may have lost jobs for multiple different reasons, but you only have to qualify for one, for PUA. So I would say you should when you file, report income for all of them, right? If you got paid in 2019, because again, if it gets above that number, you could be eligible for a higher rate. But as long as you lost one of those jobs for one of those qualifying reasons that I showed on that list, then you're eligible for PUA.
Thank you. Does getting an SBA loan void eligibility for getting PUA?
So these are issues people have to talk to with their accountant. It depends on the loan, right? So people who receive like PPP, generally that was meant to replace income, like replace like payroll for folks. And so if you got PPP, then you probably shouldn't, then you should either report the amount you got per week from that program, because it did break down per week, or you can choose just not to file for those weeks. You can decline them. There were some other loans, but it depends. If it's meant to be a form of income replacement, right, then it's something you have to report in the week that you received it for those loans. So for some of these other loans, people receive it all at once. It's not spread out over a number of weeks, or it's not intended to be spread out over a number of weeks. So you can report that during the 1 week. But generally speaking, if you're getting into that level of specificity, depending on the amount provided by SBA, I would talk to somebody who does accounting, because there are some issues in that, or come for individual legal advice on your situation.
Thank you. Can someone at some point discuss the more fine points of ReliaCard penalties regarding transfers to bank account, etc.? If and when there are fees on the card, once the card is activated, if there's a time limit to draw on it.
So unfortunately, I don't know those fees inside and out, but they are all listed, I believe, on the website for US Bank. I don't think that there is a time in which you have to spend the money. There is generally an expiration date on these cards, just like anything else. But besides that, there's not a time limit. I will say there have been a lot of issues with ReliaCard and people's cards being deactivated or other things like that. If that's you, please also come to us for assistance. We've been tracking those issues. We're working with Treasury to try to fix a lot of them. So if you have a card and you're not able to use it for some reason, please do reach out. But the ReliaCard, US Bank ReliaCard website should lay out kind of all of the conditions of card use.
Thank you. My benefits for PUA just expired, but I heard you say there's a 13-week extension. I tried to file my weekly claim, but it's saying I've exhausted all my benefits. How do I access the additional 13 weeks? Even if it stops on 12/26, I could still use the income for the next 2 weeks.
So unfortunately, as I was trying to clarify, the 13-week extension is for regular unemployment. It's already built into PUA. That's how people got 39 weeks to begin with, because the federal extension was built in. So unfortunately, you get 39 weeks, and that's it right now, unless there is another extension that's passed by the federal government. They are in talks down in DC right now. As Andrew said, there's ways to get involved in that. The other key is that for folks who have reported part-time work while collecting PUA, The federal government, the federal Department of Labor, has come down very hard and has said, even if you only got, let's say, $10 in a given week, that still counts as one of your 39 weeks for PUA. There are some folks who have reached 39 weeks, but still see money left in their account or think they should still be able to get money. And the federal government is currently telling us you can't have that money. You get 39 weeks and that's it, no matter how much you collected during each week, which is different from how regular unemployment programs typically work. We are hopeful that that could change either in a new piece of legislation or when a new Department of Labor takes over in January. But right now, I know that is also harming a lot of people, and folks are confused as to why they can't file if they still saw money in their account. But if you're at 39 weeks and you can see that on your claim summary for PUA, it will show you each individual week that you filed for. If you see you're at number 39, then unfortunately they're going to cut you off.
And if I could just add to that real quick, we all I think that PUA is, like, in my opinion, a criminally short period of time, given that it's running out in the middle of the crisis. And while we're waiting for Congress and the federal government to do something, we've actually seen that cities can take the lead in filling that gap. So in October, the city of Washington, D.C. passed legislation that if you were collecting PUA as a freelancer or gig worker in the city of Washington, D.C., and your federal PUA money ran out, the city of Washington, D.C. kicks in an additional 7 weeks. So after your federal PUA money runs out, the municipality of Washington, D.C. was kicking in almost another 2 months. And one of the things we're going to be talking about on our call on January 8th, that's in the chat, is how we can encourage the Philadelphia city government to do the same thing, right? So, like, if any of these federal benefits run out, knowing that Philadelphians who are receiving either regular UC or PUA aren't left in the lurch and are able to keep receiving some stopgap funding from the city. That does not exist yet, and that's why we're fighting for it.
Thank you. Next question is, do I qualify if certain months this year my business did well, but others I made very little? I was on PUA for 2 weeks and then I made too much money 1 week and I got kicked off. I lost many months of work this year though.
So qualifying for PUA depends on, like I said, they're only looking at how much you made in 2019. If you worked and earned money and then lost work again, you can always reopen your PUA claim. So if they cut you off for excessive benefit, it's usually called excessive earnings for a particular week. It means you earned too much to qualify for benefits that week. You can still file for weeks after that. The weeks are all handled individually. So if that did happen to you, now there were issues early on, like very early on with PUA, where if they were putting excessive earnings in there, you couldn't file at all, but that's been changed, that's been fixed. So if you need to go back and file for any of those weeks where you weren't working or you only had minimal income and you don't see those as available to file on your portal, then you need to reopen your claim. There's instructions for that on the portal, and you can request, again, backdating for those weeks.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions that are kind of around the same topic, so I'll just kind of group these together. It's regarding W-2 income and then 1099 income. Some people state that their 1099 income is either a third or equal to half of what they were making on W-2s. Are they still able to go for both, or do they have to select?
If you have W-2 income, you're going to need to apply for regular unemployment because if they'll tell you that if you don't qualify for regular unemployment and tell you to go to PUA, but if you have W-2, you have to be on regular unemployment if you qualify for that. this is a place where people are really getting hurt who are working in multiple different labor markets. If you have both W-2 income and 1099 income, your unemployment replacement rate will be much lower than someone who is all W-2 or all 1099. It's a problem with the CARES Act. There was a bill introduced to try to fix it, but there has been no movement on that. So unfortunately, you can't, like I said, you can't collect UC for one type and PUA for another type. If you have enough W-2 to qualify for UC, you're going to be in that program. Now, I know that stinks because you may get a lower rate in that program, but there are more weeks of benefits available in that program right now. And so there is an advantage to being on regular UC in that way.
Next question is, if you're married and filing separately, how does that affect you?
They're not looking at anything like household income. It's not a means test. It's just about your individual income.
Wonderful. Thank you. Trying to scroll through. There's quite a few that we lumped together. So I'm seeing it. And then there are some that are very specific that I'm going to reach out to and give contact information so they can talk offline. I think majority of these have been answered in that. And if not, I will be reaching out to them with the contact information.
Of course. And like I said, we'll, Victoria, I'll send you and James and Corinne the information that we have, that if you want to distribute to folks, you can. And again, recommend following us, following PUP on social media, as well as the Department of Labor and Industry, because they post updates about what's happening with claims on their Facebook page as well.
One last question I'll throw in there. And then I do want to remind everyone that, actually, this one will take precedent. I do want to remind everyone, if you have been registered through Eventbrite, I will be sending out a detailed email with the presentation, with all the contact information and the recording of this event too. And if you are watching us on Facebook and didn't have the opportunity to register, you can email me at Victoria.Boyer, Boyer, @muralarts.org. Question is, will the back date request need to have been processed before the 26th in order for us to receive the $600 in the future?
No. You don't lose your right to any of that once December 26th hit. They still have to do it. The program's still active. It's for weeks earlier. You should be fine.
Thank you. And one more question regarding contracts and the cancellation of events in 2020. My contract was COVID canceled in September 2020. Can I use that contract in the cancellation letter to file, or is there still the requirement to show the 2019 income?
So again, you don't have to show 2019 income. If you don't have 2019 income, then you're going to get the base rate of $195. Okay, that's all that means. The canceled contract is very helpful to show that you had that somebody rescinded, in essence, a job offer, right? That's what qualifies you for PUA. So if you were working until September and then the contract was rescinded in September, then you would apply for PUA. You would say that you had an offer rescinded. I would recommend uploading those documents and then requesting backdating to September. But it doesn't have any impact on the 2019 income question.
Thank you. Does SNAP, food stamps, LIHEAP, etc. need to be counted as income that needs to be reported?
No, we're only talking about earned income, right? So that is money paid to you for work that you have done. So if you are given gifts, if you are given generally most types of loans, like I said, there's some questions about other types of loans, all that type of stuff, or other government benefits, that is not reportable income. It is not earned income for the purposes of unemployment.
Wonderful, thank you.
And let me just be clear. Most of those other programs do take into consideration your unemployment benefits in determining your income. right? So I believe SNAP looks at your unemployment benefit amount, as do some of the other means tested public benefit programs. Let me also just say, for those of you who are running out of benefits, if there is not an extension, I recommend contacting Benephilly. You can Google them and find a hotline number for them on the internet. They can screen you to see, especially now that your unemployment benefits have ended, if you qualify for any other type of benefits. They can do that screening and then help get you started on applications.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. For those of you with a little bit more detailed questions, I'm reaching out to you so you can email me directly and I can put you in contact with people to talk through it. Okay. I do not have anything more on my end. So then thank you, Julia. Thank you, Andrew, so much for your assistance tonight for this event. It's so important during these times. This can be very confusing, and with everything else that we're dealing with, it's really nice to have a little bit of clarity. I'd also like to thank Philadelphia Legal Assistance, James Jackson and Philadelphia Unemployment Project, Stuart Adair and the Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, Corinne Wilson and the Mural Arts Philadelphia Community Murals team for putting this together. And one more time, just so you know, those who have registered for this event will be getting an email with resources and contact information within the next few days from me. And those of you on Facebook, if you'd like to receive that email with the information, please send me an email at Victoria.Boyer, Boyer, @muralarts.org. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening and a safe and happy holiday season.